Hello, hello, gamers. It's a lovely Sunday morning. I got my coffee in my Bobby Hill mug. I got my wagon wheel. And we got a new chapter of One Piece. What could be better than that? Those are clean. On the cover page, we got Reiju hanging out with swans that look like the other members of Germa 66. It's very silly. Protecting the little itty bitty baby Sanji duckling, which is the naughty, ugly duckling. Reiju appearance. Yeah. You're a big Reiju fan? Yeah. I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm excited too. Notably, this was submitted by Nebobo D 420 Land, which is, I believe, the latest alias of, I think it was called like Waka Waka 420 Land for a while. Something like that. It's a serial cover art idea submitter. That I always wondered, is the 420 Land in their name like a weed thing? Or is that a coincidence? I have no idea, because it's Japan. You never really know when it comes to weed.
Well, there's a lot of, it's probably not accurate, there's overrepresented in wrestling. There are guys who are just really into, like, reggae stuff in Japan.
That is true. That is true.
About, like, the actual, weed itself.
Mm-hmm.
But just, like, the weed aesthetic.
You will see that in, like, big Japan cities. There'll be, like, a Rasta store.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you guys, like, doing?
They think the pot leaf symbolism is badass, but they would never, ever, ever smoke it.
Yeah. Let's dive into the problem. I mean, the chapter. Oh my god. I need to have more copy. The chapter's title is The Root of the Problem.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the chapter titled The Root of the Problem. So, Luffy has punched the shit out of Imu. Very, very satisfying. You love to see it. Again, I am just continually impressed that Oda had this super endgame villain, protected him for so long. We saw so little of his power or capability. And often when you have a character like that in Battle Shonen, a real endgame threat, you spend a little while posturing that that character is just unfathomably above every other character you've seen in power level. And typically this is represented by having them just, like, laugh off or become totally incorporeal and not take attacks, or, you know, just doing something that so obviously belittles everything else we've seen up until that point, smirking while getting punched in the face with the heretofore strongest attack. And I always thought that was kind of cheap. That's just kind of, like, meaningless now in the conversation of power levels. You've just kind of said, you know what, up until now it's been a farce. Who cares? This guy is just, like, way too strong or whatever, and then it necessitates some real BS training arc from the protagonists. I think this is way more interesting to me, that Imu is strong, but Imu is not just otherworldly strong. Imu, in the end of the day, is maybe some sort of strange Lunarian immortal ancient species that is now extinct. But on another level, he's just some guy. He can get clocked in the face and go flying just like anybody else. You love to see it. I remember at the start of Wano, too, that when Luffy gets a good hit in on Kaido, I thought similarly, that I was glad they were showing right from the jump that Luffy could hit Kaido and it could do something. I think that just makes it all the more hype. So Imu goes flying, fires off 2 blasts of omens. Loki and Luffy having this sort of rivalry. I love it. It's great. The omens fly back. I like that they have this strange, goofy personality, too. You know, Imu is obviously extremely evil and the root of much evil in this series. But again, Oda resisting any sort of temptation, resisting all of the kind of like shonen tropes of just making this guy grim, dark, edgy or anything like that, and maintaining that One Piece spirit even with this. The omens attacking them at a distance. He looks way scary up close. Supposed to go to his chest where the sword was stuck. They're just like bantering. They look like little Ghibli characters. They look like the guy in Howl's Moving Castle, kind of. I love it. I love it. I love that they talk, that they have personalities. That's crazy. And then somehow, this is scary. They create like a connection point where Imu now rings this like little bell of omen, and it creates seemingly instantly, because we know Loki can really move fast despite his size. We can kind of see this is a good conveyance of kind of like relative speed in this scene where we see Luffy moving, but the sword is like already there basically. So like we can surmise that this part of the page takes like less than a second. So this is some capability that once you get the omen in a spot, you can then relay this attack instantly. We're getting kind of more hints as to Imu's mechanics and stuff, which again just kind of suggests like this is not going to be some BS thing where he's unfathomably powerful and Luffy needs to transcend his current power by an unfathomable amount in order to fight. This is going to be a fight that plays out much like many other One Piece fights, with this sort of overcoming of different mechanics and abilities and attacks. Okay, so, meanwhile, this is kind of interesting. They are trying to free Gunko from this frozen prison. Which already is kind of odd because this wasn't the work of an enemy. This was the work of Loki. So already this sort of situation where we are trying to undo the attack of an ally is kind of strange and unique. Obviously, nobody has time to run over to Loki and be like, hey, how do we deal with this? But what I think this is actually hinting towards is the frozen continent of ancient giants, which is something that's been brought up a couple times. Orz's corpse was found in a frozen continent. They've talked about a frozen continent that contains all of Don Chinjao's treasure that he was able to split open. And then more explicitly, they just said during the Rocks flashback that there was this band of ancient pirates, the Galilee, that roam the ocean and were the terror of the seas, and then have all been frozen away somewhere. And that's part of the reason they really want Harold, is that they believe Harold will somehow be able to unfreeze the giants and lead them into battle. So my thing is, we kind of assumed that whoever froze these giants was doing so maliciously, that it was like Emu or the world government or whatever. But I kind of think we're going to find out in some Void Century flashback, which is when this would have happened. One of the plot elements will be the ancient giant pirates, and that they were voluntarily frozen using the Needhogger power to serve as like a... Well, I guess it's not Needhogger's power, it's the squirrel guy. His power. Frozen away to serve as a reserve for some climactic battle, in the same way that Joy Boy flooded the earth in order to kind of like preserve and wait for the coming dawn, for the resurrection of Niku, which is Luffy, of course. So here I think this is the first kind of tease of the future arc where they track down these frozen giants, use Loki and the squirrel to unfreeze them, and, you know, But I think, yeah, there's going to be some sort of theme of Joy Boy being like, we're losing in this moment, but we need to plant these seeds for like a future resistance. So this is exciting. This is cool. They can't figure out if it's cold or not. The robot and the skeleton can't tell. That's great. It is some sort of strange, otherworldly ice. The call out specifically that Gunko should have suffocated is interesting, because again, it's like setting up that this is somehow supernatural, something to do with the squirrel's power. I keep saying the squirrel, I can't remember its name. Ratatoskr, thank you. And, that way when they get the frozen giants out, even though it's been 700 years, they're going to be right as rain. Okay, Loki goes flying backwards. Okay, and now we're going to learn the trick. The hammer comes flying in. Oh! And then it bounces right off, and it doesn't unfreeze Gunko. Oh, no, never mind. Here we go. Okay, yeah. Ice has suddenly begun to melt. Brooke calls out to Princess Shuri. Now, we have no idea what state she's going to be in. She got her ass handed to her, and then frozen. But is it enough to undo this, like, advanced Domi Reversi that she's under? Will she become Princess Shuri again, at last? Meanwhile, the fight continues. Luffy realizing, I think, just in time, how the Omen bell relay thing works. He throws it off, throws his entire coat off. Emu, again, uses this, like, instant black lightning blast. I really like this. Like I said, Emu is not being put at some unfathomably higher power level, but Emu is doing stuff that no other One Piece character has done. In terms of attacks, in terms of kind of the nature of his attacks, this sort of instant attack between 2 points, I think is pretty interesting. Meanwhile, we have the confrontation between Zoro and Saint Somers. Saint Somers, of course, boosted by Emu's presence. Emu gave him some sort of temporary boost sort of thing. This conversation, pretty funny, where Somers saying, forget about it, it's just 10 or 20 kids, that's all. Which is maybe genuinely indicative of how out of touch he is from, human matters. That he genuinely thinks this. But here we see this arc is kind of like moving in ways I never would have predicted. After what already seemed like the climax, then we got like the bonus coda super climax of Emu showing up. And now after that, it has kind of restructured itself to the most traditional One Piece format yet, where like Zoro's gonna have a fight, Sanji's gonna have a fight, and Luffy's gonna have a fight. I don't know how we are gonna see Sanji and Zoro triumph. If we are gonna see them triumph, it might be a humbling moment, but I kind of doubt it. I feel like that would be awfully rude of Oda to let Zoro do this like real badass posturing. I love this line. My guess is that yours ain't coming back. Mind if I ask why? Because he'll be dead. Sick nasty. But at the same time, Somers is like immortal. Like they have to still puzzle out the nature of his odd mechanical heart and the fact that he just keeps regenerating. And even if you use like Supreme Conqueror's Haki, It doesn't seem like it prevents the regeneration entirely. It just slows it down a bit. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Now we come back to Zaza, the rain god. Sanji trying to assess the situation. Sanji, of course, you're kind of more strategic thinker among the Straw Hats. I like this. I like this little breakdown. I think it's very funny that even though he acknowledges this is just like a giant monster made out of water, he's not even concerned about whether or not he is capable of kicking it. He's just saying, I won't kick it because it's a woman. So what is his conclusion? I think he'll hopefully have the foresight to realize if I just take out Killingham, this giant monster will go away. I think they've been able to piece together that he is essential to the existence of these sleeptids. Yeah, you're the root of the problem. The giants might lose sight of you, but you can't escape from me. I like this. I like how different the fights feel too, where Zoro gets kind of like your very fated one-on-one. It's just them on the ship, you know. Perfect dual arena. Sanji is fighting amid the chaos of the giants battling the giant rain sleeptid. The scale of this fight is crazy, because the sleeptid dwarfs the giants' kids still like dwarf Sanji. And then Sanji and Killingham are basically two little ants that, despite being so teeny tiny and just running around this giant village, are actually the linchpin of this entire situation. Okay. You're tougher than you look. There's an entire world of difference between toughness and immortality, and that is why you cannot beat me, even if getting rid of me means my powers will vanish, I suppose. So go on and try it. Can you eliminate the god of rain? I know what you people are weak against. Okay, yeah, so Sanji knows that the Supreme King Haki is relevant here. You can see Killingham's full vow abyssal contract tattoo thing going on. So this could be a kind of cool mid-power-up, or mid-battle power-up awakening moment for Sanji. We haven't had that kind of action in a little while. That he manifests the power of the Supreme King. But again, it's like been shown that that's not quite enough, because Mr. Ya, Scopper Gaban, used such a power and fully chopped the head off of Sommers, and it didn't deal with him entirely. Okay, so now we come back to the scene with Scopper. How do you expect to swear your cabinet? Enter the sea. You have the potential for it. However, in your case, for some reason, you possess a streak of masochistic instability. You must be a king too if you truly want to make Luffy the king of pirates. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Nice. Oh, nice. Very awesome final spread here. I love the title fight at the bottom. King of the World, Saint Nerona Emu versus Emperor of the Sea, Monkey D. Luffy. Of course, there's no way this will be their final confrontation. I still think that Emu must be on some sort of time limit. Otherwise, why does he always hang out in Marijois? Why isn't he just exerting his will directly upon the world? Why was everybody so surprised to see him show up? Why did he cough up blood as soon as he got warped in? So I imagine this will just be a fight to a draw of sorts. And then this will inspire Luffy to, you know, conduct a more full-on raid of the world government now that he understands directly where the seat of evil power lies. I think this was kind of necessary, really, because like we as readers understand so much of this situation, and maybe like Robin does, but Luffy certainly had no clue as to who their real enemy ultimately was. He had a vague sense that it was the world government, shoot down that flag. But outside of getting to the One Piece, he kind of didn't really care that much. When they fought the Five Elders on Egghead, he certainly understood they were enemies, but I don't think he really grasped that this was an organization that you could take down. So yeah, I mean, I am anticipating, of course, that one of the big climactic arcs will be a full-on all good guys versus all bad guys war, a shonen classic, where the world government versus Luffy and all sympathetic marines and allied pirate crews, with Blackbeard's crew and other unaligned powers becoming kind of a third party that I think at pivotal moments in the war will change sides or split up, and some joins one side, some joins another, things like that. And really, like, although I think we all saw that coming, Oda has more or less guaranteed it, saying that the big battle at the end will make the Whitebeard War look piddling, which is quite the boast. It wasn't really actually fully motivated, because it basically assumed that at some point they would come in and just try to stop Luffy from getting to the One Piece. He's very single-minded about just getting to the One Piece. So now I think we are actually sowing the seeds of a real legitimate conflict between the two. More than sowing the seeds, we're just showing it. Here we frickin' go. King of the World versus Emperor of the Sea. Amazing. Let's look forward to next week. Another banger chapter. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna finish my coffee, finish my wagon wheel, and read the rest of Jump. See ya. Do you have any thoughts?
Oh.
Okay.